Готов. Пострел!
That is the sound of asymmetry. It is the acoustic signature of the single most disruptive weapon of the modern era. It is not a rifle. It is not a missile. It is not a bomb. It is, in its own way, all three. It is a $10 million main battle tank's worst nightmare. It is a $10,000 light armored vehicle's sudden obituary. It is a low-flying helicopter's mortal enemy, and it costs less than a used car. This is the weapon that took the power of a cannon and put it on the shoulders of a single man. It is the Ruchnoi Protivotankowy Granatomiot, the handheld anti-tank grenade launcher, the RPG-7. Like its brother, the AK-47, it is not the best. It is not the most accurate, or the most powerful, or the most advanced, but it is the most common. It is the most reliable, and it is the most effective. The Kalashnikov rifle changed how men fought men. The RPG-7 changed how men fought machines.
And to understand why this simple steel tube from 1961 is still a dominant force on any battlefield, you have to understand the hideous, beautiful physics it contains. It is a weapon of three secrets: a secret launch, a secret flight, and a secret kill. Our story begins, as it so often does, in the wreckage of World War II. The war was a crucible that proved one thing: the tank was king. From the T-34 on the Eastern Front to the Sherman in the West, armor was the deciding factor. Infantry was helpless. Until they weren't. The Germans, in a desperate late-war innovation, created the Panzerfaust, the tank fist. It was a disposable, recoilless tube that could be given to a single soldier. It was cheap, it was crude, and it worked. The Soviets, who had paid the highest price in blood to German armor, watched, and they learned. They were obsessed. They captured this technology, copied it, and by 1949, they had their own, the RPG-2. But the RPG-2 was a first draft. It was flawed. Its range was pathetic, barely 100 meters. Its penetration was weak against the new tanks of the Cold War, the American Pattons and British Centurions. The Soviet army needed a true people's weapon, a new launcher that was as simple, as rugged, and as mass-producible as the AK-47. It had to be reloadable, it had to be cheap, and it had to be usable by a conscript who, just weeks before, was a farmer. In 1961, the Tula and Degcharov design bureaus delivered the answer: the RPG-7.
From a distance, it looked like its predecessor, a simple tube with a wooden grip. But it was a revolutionary leap, and the first revolution was the launch. This is the first secret, and it's what everyone gets wrong. You think this is a rocket launcher. It is not. It is a recoilless-assisted, rocket-propelled grenade. That phrase is the key. Let's walk through a firing. A soldier takes the PG-7V grenade. It's a bulbous, finned projectile. The booster, a small cardboard tube filled with propellant, is screwed onto the back. He slides it into the front of the launcher. He aims. He pulls the trigger. That sound, that's the booster charge. It's a small bag of black powder, and it is the only thing that explodes inside the tube. This is the first genius of the design, the recoilless principle. This is not a gun. A gun is a high-pressure system. It traps gas to force a bullet out, which creates massive, shoulder-breaking recoil. The RPG-7 is a low-pressure system. The tube is just a pipe, open at both ends. When the booster charge detonates, it does two things at once. It pushes the 8-pound grenade forward out of the tube, and it vents an equal amount of gas backward out the flared exhaust. Forward momentum equals backward momentum. The forces cancel out. There is almost no recoil. This is why the launcher can be so light. It doesn't need a heavy, reinforced breech. It's just a channel. It's a bazooka in principle.
The grenade pops out of the tube, traveling at 115 meters per second. The shooter is safe. But 115 meters per second is not fast enough. The grenade would drop like a rock. And that is where the second secret happens. The grenade is now flying through the air. It is 11 meters away from the soldier. It is clear of the shooter. And now, a pyrotechnic delay, burning since the launch, ignites the real engine. The solid fuel rocket motor built into the grenade itself ignites. It burns for just half a second, but it accelerates the projectile. It doesn't just pop, it flies. The speed triples, pushing the grenade to nearly 300 meters per second. This is what gives the RPG-7 its range. Not the launch, the flight. This two-stage system is the core of its brilliance. It separates the launch from the propulsion, protecting the operator from being cooked alive by his own rocket. It is also, ironically, the weapon's greatest weakness. Because the rocket motor kicks in after it leaves the tube, it is incredibly susceptible to wind. A 10-mile-per-hour crosswind can push the rocket 3 feet off target at 300 meters. A skilled operator learns to Kentucky windage, to aim into the wind. But for an untrained insurgent, it's point and pray. It's also why you see the fins. As the grenade leaves the tube, 4 large fins spring open to stabilize it. But there's a second, smaller set of fins at the back. These are canted. They spin the projectile slowly, just like a rifle bullet. This spin creates gyroscopic stability, making it more accurate. So this ingenious two-stage rocket-assisted grenade is now screaming towards its target. And now we come to the third secret, the kill.
The grenade hits the tank. What happens? You think it's an explosion. It is not. An explosion is just pressure, a wave of force. Modern armor does not care about your explosion. No, the RPG-7 does not break armor. It burns through it. This is the physics of the shaped charge, the Monroe effect. The warhead is called heat, high explosive anti-tank. Inside that bulbous nose cone, there is not just a block of explosives. There is a hollow cavity, and lining that cavity is a cone. A simple cone made of copper. When the grenade hits the tank, a fuse in the nose detonates the explosives from the back. This is the critical part. The blast wave moves forward, and it slams into that copper cone. The force is so immense, so focused, that the copper cone doesn't just shatter, it turns inside out. It becomes a hypervelocity jet, a focused, molten spear of metal, traveling at over 8,000 meters per second. That is Mach 23. This jet of superplastic plasma is not melting the armor. That's a myth. It's hitting the steel with such focused kinetic pressure that the steel itself fails. It behaves like a fluid. The jet punches a tiny, pencil-sized hole through a foot of solid steel. The kill mechanism isn't the hole. It's what comes through it. The remnants of that molten jet, plus the white-hot shards of the tank's own armor, are blasted into the crew compartment at thousands of degrees. This superheated shrapnel ignites ammunition. It detonates fuel. It vaporizes anything and anyone inside. It is a hideous, perfect, and terrifying application of physics. This combination, a cheap launcher, a simple two-stage rocket, and a physics-defying warhead, was unleashed upon the world. In Vietnam, it was a nightmare for American M113 armor and M48 tanks. It gave infantry a weapon that could stop a 50-ton machine. In the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Egyptian infantry, armed with thousands of RPG-7s and Sagar missiles, devastated Israeli tank columns. The age of the tank's total invincibility was over. In Afghanistan, the Mujahideen turned the RPG against a new target: the sky. They would perch on mountainsides and fire in volleys at landing or taking off Soviet Hind helicopters. It was an incredibly difficult shot, but you only have to be lucky once. It was the low-tech Stinger missile.
In 1993, in Somalia, it was the RPG-7 that brought down 2 American Black Hawk helicopters, an event that shifted U.S. foreign policy. And in Iraq and Afghanistan, it became the weapon of the insurgency, the unholy trinity of the modern battlefield: the IED, the AK-47, and the RPG-7. The weapon became so effective, so ubiquitous, that it forced a new evolution. You've seen it, that Mad Max post-apocalyptic look of modern military vehicles. Why are they covered in cages? That is slat armor, and it is designed specifically to defeat the RPG-7. It is a simple, brilliant counter. The cage is a fence. It's not trying to stop the grenade. It's trying to detonate it early. Remember the shape charge. It is only effective at a very specific, preset distance from the armor. If the cage catches the RPG and detonates it on the fence, the molten jet forms too early. It dissipates its energy in the open air before it ever reaches the vehicle's real armor. It is a statistical defense, a game of inches. Of course, the RPG-7 adapted. The designers created tandem charge warheads, the PG-7VR. It's an RPG with 2 warheads, a small one at the front to defeat the slat armor, or explosive reactive armor, and a millisecond later, the main warhead hits the now exposed hull. It's a 1-2 punch. The arms race is eternal. Today we have active protection systems, radars on tanks that see an incoming RPG and fire a tiny shotgun blast to destroy it in midair. The RPG-7 is, by all technical measures, obsolete. It is outranged by the Javelin. It is defeated by modern armor. It is mocked by active defenses. And yet, it is still in production. It is still in the hands of soldiers and insurgents in over 50 countries. It is still rolling off assembly lines in Russia, China, and Pakistan. Why? Because the Kalashnikov philosophy holds true. Good enough is perfect. A $10 million tank is useless if it's been tracked by a $500 weapon. A $2 million MRAP is a burning wreck from a $500 weapon. A building full of snipers is a pile of rubble from a $500 weapon. It is the great equalizer. It is a platoon's pocket artillery. It is not a precision scalpel. It is a sledgehammer, and it was designed to smash machines. For over 60 years, it has been the most available, most cost-effective, and most terrifying hammer on Earth.